Right now, a thin film of salt water is spread across your eyes. A second ago, you blinked and wiped it clean and never noticed. Every animal with eyes does the same thing all day long, but you are the only creature on Earth that will ever do something stranger. Someday, maybe today, something will move you. Maybe a song or a memory or the sight of a face at an airport, and your eyes will fill for no physical reason at all. You will cry because you feel something, and the man who figured out evolution looked at that and called it purposeless. His name was Charles Darwin. In 1872, he wrote a whole book on how humans and animals show emotion. When he got to weeping, he stopped. He could explain almost everything else, like why we bare our teeth or why fear widens the eyes. But the tears themselves, the water running down a crying face, he could find no use for. So he decided they were an accident, a byproduct of scrunching the eyes shut during a scream. As purposeless, he said, as the tears you make when dust blows into your eye. 150 years later, that is roughly still where we are. We have walked on the moon and read the human genome, and we still cannot fully tell you why you cry. To see why it is such a puzzle, you have to know that you do not make one kind of tear. You make three. The first kind is always there. It is called a basal tear, and it is a thin coat of fluid that keeps your eyeball from drying out. It is working right now. Every land animal with eyes has it. The dog, the lizard, the mouse, the horse. Nothing emotional about it. It is windshield washer fluid for the eye. The second kind shows up when something attacks your eye. Chop an onion, and it releases a gas that stings the surface of your eye, and your body floods it with water to wash the chemical away. That is a reflex tear. Wind does it. A poke does it. Almost every animal has this too. It is a bouncer, throwing out anything that does not belong. And then there is the third kind, the emotional tear, the one that comes from grief or relief or a wedding or a piece of music. It is not cleaning anything. Nothing got in your eye. And as far as anyone can tell, no other animal on Earth makes it. You will hear stories that elephants weep for their dead, that a dog cried when its owner came home from the war. They are lovely, and none of them hold up. When scientists look closely, they find the animal is making basal or reflex tears, the cleaning kind, not weeping from feeling. Tears that flow because of what is happening inside you, rather than on the surface of your eye, seem to belong to us alone. So the question sharpens. It is not, why do eyes make water? Every eye makes water. It is, why does yours make water when your heart hurts? Here's a strange first clue. You did not start out able to do it. A newborn baby screams from the first minute of life, red-faced, mouth open, in real distress, and no tears come out. The glands are there, but they do not fully switch on for weeks. Most babies do not cry wet tears until somewhere between 2 weeks and 3 months old. The crying comes first, the tears get added later, and once they arrive, they never spread evenly. On average, a man cries somewhere between 6 and 17 times a year. A woman between 30 and 64. When women cry, the sessions run longer too, around 6 minutes to a man's 3. Some of that is hormones. Some of it is what each of us was taught to swallow. But nobody sits at 0. The toughest person you know still leaks salt water when something gets past the guard. And it is not only sadness that does it. This is the part that breaks the simple answers. You cry at weddings. You cry when you are relieved, when you are proud, when a soldier surprises his kid at school. Whatever crying is for, it cannot only be a distress signal, because we do it in the best moments of our lives too. For a while, there was a tidy explanation, and it was wrong. In the 1980s, a scientist named William Fry suggested that emotional tears were the body taking out the trash. That crying literally flushed stress chemicals out of you, which was why you felt lighter after a good cry. It was a satisfying idea. It spread everywhere. It just never held up in the lab. That special stress hormone bath was something no one could reliably find. But Frey was right about one thing. Emotional tears are chemically a little different from the others. And in 2011, a lab at the Weizmann Institute in Israel set out to find whether that difference actually did anything. The experiment was simple and slightly bizarre. Women watched sad films and collected their tears in little vials. Then men, who had no idea what they were about to smell, sniffed either those real tears or a drop of plain salt water. The men could not tell them apart. Both were odorless. But after sniffing the actual tears, something shifted. The men rated women's faces as less attractive. Their testosterone dropped in their saliva, and a brain scanner showed the arousal centers of their brains going quiet. A chemical they could not consciously smell had reached in and turned a dial. So, a tear may be more than water. It may be a message sent from your body to the people around you, underneath anything you choose to say. Which brings us to the real question: what is the message? There are a few suspects and no verdict. The leading one comes from a Dutch psychologist named Ad Vingerhoots, who has spent his whole career on this. His idea is that a tear is an honest signal. Almost everything else you do can be faked, from a smile to a word to a promise. Tears are hard to fake and almost impossible to hide, so a visible tear becomes a kind of white flag. It says, "I am not a threat, and I need you." And it works on the people who see it. A wet face pulls help toward it and pulls aggression back, in a way a dry face never does. There is a second idea, stranger and quietly beautiful. Tears blur your vision. For the few seconds you are crying hard, you genuinely cannot see well enough to fight or to run. A biologist named Hassan argued that this is the entire point. That blurred eyes are a built-in flag of surrender, a way of telling the person in front of you that you have lowered your guard, that you are, for a moment, choosing to be defenseless in front of them. And then there is the message hidden in the chemistry, the one that lab in Israel caught a piece of. Tears quietly changing the body of whoever stands close enough to smell them. Maybe it is all three. Maybe it is none of them, and the real answer is something nobody has thought of yet. That is the honest state of the science. We are still, as Vingerhoots puts it, at the very beginning of understanding a thing you did before you could talk. One last myth while we are here. The good cry. We are all sure that crying makes us feel better. But when researchers actually track people through it, it mostly does not, at least not on its own. Crying tends to help when someone is there to hold you, or when the thing you cried about actually gets resolved. Cry alone into a pillow over a problem that is still there in the morning, and you often feel worse. The relief was never really inside the tears. It was in what the tears pulled toward you. Which might be the whole thing. Every animal on Earth makes tears to see. You are the only one that makes them to be seen. It is a wet, silent signal that says, "Something is happening in here, come closer." You spoke it to your mother before you had a single word to give her. And 150 years after Darwin looked at it and shrugged, that is still very nearly all we can say for certain. You cry. It pulls people in, and no one can fully tell you why. So the next time your eyes sting at something you cannot quite explain, a song, a memory, a stranger being kind, you do not have to understand it. It was working long before you did. The only thing left to argue about is why, and which of these answers is the real one is, for now, yours to guess.